all about first is Ishavashamidam Sarvam, then this Purnamidam is all is about proprietorship and the loss of the God. So everybody have to abide by the karma, abide by the laws of nature, and then they are supposed to follow. So that is the first section. Second section is about how do we see the supreme person of Godhead, how about. So section 4 to 8 is all about talking about the vision of Mahabharata, where Mahabharata will be able to see the Supreme Lord, realize the Brahman, realize the supreme nature, and also he will be able to see others in equality. He will be able to see the Lord's presence. He will be able to realize the Paramatma. He will be able to realize the Brahman, all those aspects, and also the person who is sitting inside the heart is also sitting across all other living entities, and all the living entities is also a part and parcel of the Lord. So those are the main portions that we covered in 4 to 8. And then in the 9 to 11 is all about knowledge. Like where Prabhupada is bringing this understanding, where in 13th chapter, knowledge is something which is encompassing towards the material understanding of the Prakriti, understanding Jivatma, understanding the Supreme Lord, and all the other aspects to it, like the qualities, the guna, everything together is what is knowledge. Apart from this, there is nothing called as knowledge. So whatever knowledge is mentioned in 13th chapter, one big section from 7 to 11 slokas, it is all about that knowledge. Okay, so in terms of the knowledge portion, that is what we saw in the 4 slokas mainly. So cultivation of knowledge, culture of knowledge, and one who can learn the process of identifying, understanding what is ignorance, avidya, and what is vidya. So they have to when they understand the clear differentiation between what is avidya and vidya, then they will be able to come out of this material world. That is the main portion, and specifically. And specifically, it is mentioned that they have to ensure that knowledge is a very important portion. So whatever activities that somebody is trying to do from a ignorance perspective or from a materialistic perspective, they will go into the darkest region, or they will go into the Antatamasa, or they will go into the lowest mode. But much more worse is in the so-called of understanding knowledge and some sort of understanding culture, they create their own. Somebody will create their own ways of doing certain things, and that is much more worst than somebody who's completely ignorant. Okay, so that is what we saw in the 9th and 10th sloka. Okay. So I think we'll get into 11th, 12th sloka today. So absolute and the relative. So 9th and 12th is all about in terms of knowledge, and from 12th onwards, it is in terms of absolute worship of the God. So the gradual progression, as I mentioned, first is understanding the Supreme Lord, his proprietorship, his ownership, is the person, and then realization of it, controlling of the senses, then getting into the Mahabhavada stage where they realize that everybody are equal and all, and then getting that jnana, and then finally getting into the worship portion. Okay, the last section is about worshipping. And in the worshipping the Supreme Lord, what is the prayers that particular Jivatma or the person who is supposed to offer to the Supreme Brahman or the Supreme Person of Godhead or the Supreme God. Okay, so this is how this entire 18 slokas are kind of combined together. In the final conclusion summary is all about offering prayers after getting the complete realization. Okay, so that is where it ends. And what kind of prayer is what we have to see. Okay. So for in the middle portion is about getting knowledge. So you compare this with Bhagavad Gita, the same thing. First of all, your self-realization, understanding your Atma, understanding about the Lord, understanding about other living entities, understanding about what are the karma, tat karma pravartana. So that activities and getting the knowledge. So this is one section. And then after that, once you get that realization, you get into the prayer part or the surrender part, in which you will be able to offer nice prayers to the Supreme Lord. So 18 slokas is kind of categorized into these specific sections. Okay. So We'll get into, so this is what andatamaso pravashyanti yo vidyam upashate tato bhuya eva tamo. So vidyayam rato. So whatever andatamasa, whatever ignorance or this one, they will be completely into that particular state. Okay. So we'll start with 12th sloka. So this is how it is, like culture of nescience, still more so culture of knowledge enter into darkness, and they will worship devatas. So that will get into much more vast stage. Okay. So Prabhupada is mentioning this point: learn the process of nescience and transcendental knowledge side by side, which means process of nescience is nothing but understanding what is right, what is wrong, understanding what should be done, what should not be done. This removal of the ignorance part and gaining the transcendental knowledge. So both have to be done side by side. Okay, so that is what is an emphasized point. And then once we get into that, then we'll be able to start worshipping the Supreme Lord. Okay. So andatamo pravashyanti ye vidyayam upasate. Those who engage in a culture of nescience activity shall enter the darkest region of ignorance. Okay. This is the 9th sloka. So Prabhupada is mentioning about in the purport, he's talking all about modern civilization, modern way of and the McClolley education system. So it is all kind of brainwashing, and it is more of nothing really useful for from a spiritual perspective. It is all at a material platform, and it is never useful for the spiritual life. So this is also a very important point. The advancement of learning by a godless people is as dangerous as a valuable gel. This is an analogy. So if you have the manikam, or they call it as the jewel on top of the cobra's head, it is very dangerous, even though it is very valuable, but it is being placed in a different position. Similarly, the valuable knowledge, if it is heard through unauthorized sources, if it is heard with the same Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or this transcendental scriptures, if it is unauthorized, so that is why Prabhupada is mentioning about following the Guru Parampara, following the Acharya Parampara. This one. So it is more of one is ignorant, other one is true knowledge, but in a different in the hands of different persons. Okay, so in the hands of different persons is much more worse than being ignorant. Okay, so that is why sometimes when we go and ask advice, when we hear some of the very nice flamboyant language, they try to be very flowery and all. So we might think, oh, whatever they are saying is absolutely correct. Or they'll talk about karma, they will talk about so many things, but actually it is all more about their own speculation, their own way of doing it, and it is not authorized. So which is much more attractive. So what will happen? We will never understand that, oh, we have to we are actually falling into the trap. So that is also very dangerous. So this sloka is all about that is much more worst than the being ignorant. This is what a godless civilization directed towards a so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization which masses of people are less educated. So which means in those times, villages, they follow a certain system, they will follow practice, they're very happy. But as and when the so-called broadcasting, so-called communication, so-called then all started improving, so many things started coming out, and they're completely getting misled. Vidya, one should learn to become a perfect gentleman and amanitvam. So whatever knowledge that is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, the entire section about from 8th sloka to 11th sloka, all the important sections, the full section of Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada, in my last class, somebody was asking all the boys. So Prabhupada in the lecture is also mentioning about nowadays the boys boys here means everybody together. I mean, they don't give proper respect to the people. They don't know what is proper culture. They don't know this one. So in the purport is mentioned even among ISKCON children also there are categories like this, and they are giving big headache to the children. Okay? That is what boys are all over the world are giving their elders headache. Absolutely, in one way, see, the other boys or girls, we follow that particular thing, right? We always pray. That's all. So Prabhupada is bringing that portion. This side by side, they will get it. Vidya cha yesus tad vedobhaya saha. Okay. Now let's get into Devata, like worship of Devata, which is much more dangerous. Somebody read.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. अन्तं तमा प्रविशन्ति ये असम्भूतिमुपासते ततो भूया इव ते तमो यो सम्भूत्यां रतः. Translation and purport by Jivanjay Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. Purport: the Sanskrit word asambhuti refers to those who have no independent existence. Sambhuti is the absolute personality of Godhead, who is absolutely independent of everything. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.2, the absolute personality of Godhead Sri Krishna states, "Na me vidhu surgana prabhavam na maharshaya am adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashah." Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Thus, Krishna is the origin of the powers delegated to demigods, great sages, and mystics. Although they are endowed with great powers, these powers are limited, and thus it is very difficult for them to know how Krishna himself appears by his own internal potency in the form of a man. Many philosophers and great rishis or mystics try to distinguish the absolute from the relative by their tiny brain power. This can only help them reach the negative conception of the absolute without realizing any positive trace of the absolute. Definition of the absolute by negation is not complete. Such negative definitions lead one to create a concept of one's own. Thus, one imagines that the absolute must be formless and without qualities. Such negative qualities are simply the reversals of the relative. Material qualities are therefore also relative. By conceiving of the absolute in this way, one can at the utmost reach the impersonal effulgence of God, known as Brahma. But one cannot make further progress to Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead.
Okay, bro. Thank you. So this section is about you get knowledge. You have to be very careful, but don't get into trap of worshipping the devatas. Okay, if you see from Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter, they were so whenever you want some materialistic opulences or whenever you are in need of certain things, from Vedas they prescribe, yes, you perform this Veda, this sacrifice, this yajna, and you worship this particular devata, you will be beneficial. You will be getting the whatever sophistication and comfort that is required in this material world. So in one sense it is true. It is required from a karma kanda perspective for that particular living entity to live in a normal way. But beyond this is the sanctioning authority. One who actually gives everything is the Supreme Lord. So somebody at the level of primary level or secondary level, they will only think about this stage. But beyond primary, secondary is the undergraduation, post graduation. So what is more important is to come out of this ignorance. So worshipping of devata is also kind of ignorance only. Okay. So first of all, understanding ourselves is one kind of ignorance. Second, understanding the Lord is again kind of an ignorance and knowledge. Third, understanding the Lord in his all the Brahman realization at the Parabrahma stage is also one man. And then understanding. So in a way where slowly, gradually, if you can see the flow, how it is taking, please ensure that you are focusing only on the Supreme Lord. Okay. So the in between certain things might come, so don't get into that portion of assuming that that one particular devata or one particular demigod is the Supreme Lord, and then get into worship of them. Okay, so that is why it is again kind of andatamas. Andam means blindness or ignorance. Tamasa means complete darkness. Okay, pravashanti to asambhutam apas. So upasate, asambhutim upas. Upasatam upashitam means worshipping. Asambhutim means the devatas. Okay. Tamaha to sambhutam is so. And then still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. The second part is understanding the Lord in the impersonal state or Brahma Jyoti stage or the Brahman stage. So he is there everywhere. He is in the material platform. His energy is across all the manifestations. That's all. So that is again from a yogi perspective. All my focus is to just perform yoga and then merge into the Brahman effulgence portion. So this is also not really recommended and must not never get into this. So again, Bhagavad Gita gives a relative understanding for us to make it more clear. Okay. Nama Vidusuragana Prabhavam Akshan. So this also we can understand. Let's continue. Anybody else? Such mental speculators.
Such mental. Please carry on, Prabhuji.
No,
Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Mataji. Yes.
Such mental speculators do not know that the absolute personality of Godhead is Krishna, that the impersonal Brahman is the glaring effulgence of his transcendental body, or that the Paramatma, the supersoul, is the radiating plenary representation. Nor do they know that Krishna has his transcendental qualities of eternal bliss and knowledge. The dependent demigods and great sages imperfectly consider him to be a powerful demigod, and they consider the Brahman effulgence to be the absolute truth. But the devotees of Krishna, by dint of their surrendering unto him and their unalloyed devotion, can know that he is the absolute person and that everything emanates from him. Such devotees continuously render loving service unto Krishna, the fountainhead of everything. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:20 and 7:23, it is said that only unintelligent, bewildered persons driven by a strong desire for sense gratification worship the demigods for the temporary relief of temporary problems. Since the living being is materially entangled, he has to be relieved from material bondage entirely to attain permanent relief on the spiritual plane, where eternal bliss, life, and knowledge exist. Sri Isopanishad therefore instructs that we should not seek temporary relief of our difficulties by worshipping the dependent demigods who can bestow only temporary benefit. Rather, we must worship the absolute personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is all attractive and who can bestow upon us complete freedom from material bondage by taking us back home, back to Godhead.
Thank you, Mataji. So very clear, right? I think so. Prabhupada is also making this. So Supreme Lord is perfect. We should never get into dependency with the rishis also, or the great rishis or demigods, because they might give you certain thing, but they may not be able to give the final this one. So that is where the point is being invented. I think all the other points we can see. So Ishopanishad gives instructs that we should not seek temporary relief to our difficulties. Okay, continue. Prabhu, continue. Ajay, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, question.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, this absolute and relative, I think there was some analogy. I'm just trying to recall that analogy so that it gets registered in mind. Maybe what's the analogy we should take for absolute and relative? I mean, how do we comprehend this basically? Now we know that somebody who is beyond the something who is created, he knows everything, right?
Correct.
I think there was some analogy. I'm trying to recall that, but
I'll also let you know. I'll tell
Okay,
you.
okay, no problem.
But relative, I mean, I think we discussed some time back also. Understanding relative and absolute is something which is kind of defined. Relative is not completely defined. It is like maybe to the some extent, yes, but not in the fullest portion. Like this is relatively true. Okay, which means this can be true, which is not really true. So that is where there is a minor. I'll tell you the knowledge. Okay, I just think about it. I remember. I also just not able to quickly recollect, but there are many analyses told by Prabhupada. I will just let you know. Ajay Prabhu.
It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7.23 that the worshippers of the demigods can go to the planets of the demigods. The moon worshippers can go to the moon, the sun worshippers to the sun, etc. Modern scientists are now venturing to the moon with the help of rockets, but this is not really a new attempt. With their advanced consciousness, human beings are naturally inclined to travel in outer space and to reach out planets, either by spaceships, mystic powers, or demigod worship. In the Vedic scriptures, it is said that one can reach other planets by any one of these three ways, but the most common way is by worshipping the demigod residing over the particular planet. In this way, one can reach the moon planet, the sun planet, and even Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in this universe. However, all planets in the material world, in the material universe, are temporary residents. The only permanent planet are the Vaikuntha Lokas. These are found in the spiritual sky, where the personality of Godhead himself predominates. As Lord Krishna stated in Bhagavad Gita 8.16, Abrahma Bhuvanar Loka Punar Avartino Arjuna Mam Upetyatu Kaunteya Punar Janmana Vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are placed in misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Sri Isopanishad points out that one who worships the demigods and attains to their material planets still remains in the darkest region of the universe. The whole universe is covered by the gigantic material elements. It is just like a coconut covered by a shell and half filled with water. Since its covering is airtight, the darkness within is dense, and therefore the sun and moon are required for illumination. Outside the universe is the vast and unlimited Brahma Jyoti expansion, which is filled with Vaikuntha. Biggest and the highest planet in the Brahma Jyoti is Krishna or Golok Vrindavan, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna himself resides. Lord Sri Krishna never leaves Krishna Loka, although he dwells there with his eternal associates. He is omnipresent throughout the complete material and spiritual cosmic manifestations. This fact has already been explained in Mantra 4. The Lord is present everywhere, just like the sun, yet he is situated in one place, just as the sun is situated in its own undeviating orbit.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I think this question is also very clear. This whole universe is covered by gigantic material elements like a coconut shell. This analogy is also very nice. Since its covering is airtight, like if you read through geography, you'll say stratosphere, this sphere, that sphere, and also even in Bhagavatam also, our Bhulogam is covered with multiple circles or concentric circles of so many elements that is getting covered, right? So we say atmosphere, and then above the atmosphere is spread across. Above atmosphere is stratosphere. Above stratosphere is some other sphere. And I remember in geography or somewhere, it is kind of completely airtight. This mandalam, this boom is so tight that the Brahman effulgence is not visible. Okay, so that is why it requires sun, moon, and all the things, so that you will get light. But once that particular portion is out, then everywhere it is completely full of the Brahman effulgence portion only. Okay, so that portion also I think very nicely brought out, and understanding the Lord, and then understanding about why we shouldn't be worshipping the devatas. So if somebody worship Yanti Devo Priti Devo. So if somebody is worshipping Yanti Deva, which Deva, which if you worship moon, you go there. If you worship Pitrus, you'll go to Pitraloka. If you worship this one, so like that it is specifically mentioned, right? So again, we can see a lot of relation between how Bhagavad Gita and Isopanishad also. So I was also telling the other day, if somebody wants to take up a comparison between each of the slokas of Isopanishad and then try to relate it to Bhagavad Gita slokas, that is also very nicely you can present it. Okay, Mataji, is anybody?
The problems of life cannot be solved simply by going to the moon planet or to some other planet above or below it. Therefore, Sri Isopanishad advises us not to bother with any destination within this dark material universe, but to try to get out of it and reach the effulgent kingdom of God. There are many pseudo-worshippers who became religionists only for the sake of name and fame. Such pseudo-religionists do not wish to get out of this universe and reach the spiritual sky. They only want to maintain the status quo in the material world under the grab of worshipping the Lord. The atheist and impersonalist led such foolish pseudo-religionists into the darkest regions by preaching the cult of atheism. The atheist directly denies the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the impersonalists support the atheist by stressing the impersonal aspect of Supreme Lord. Thus far, we have not come across any mantras in Isopanishad in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is denied. It is said that he can run faster than anyone. Those who are running after other planets are certainly persons. And if the Lord can run faster than all of them, how can he be impersonal? The impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord is another form of ignorance, arising from an imperfect conception of the absolute truth. The ignorant pseudo-religionists and the manufacturers of so-called incarnations who directly violate the Vedic injunctions are liable to enter into the darkest region of the universe because they misled those who follow them. The impersonalists generally pose themselves as incarnation of God to foolish persons who have no knowledge of Vedic wisdom. If such foolish men have any knowledge at all, it is more dangerous in their hands than ignorance itself. Such impersonalists do not even worship the demigods according to the scripture recommendations. In the scriptures, there are recommendations for worshipping demigods under certain circumstances, but at the same time, these scriptures state that there is normally no need for this. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.23, it is clearly stated that the result derived from worshipping the demigods are not permanent. Since the entire material universe is impermanent, whatever is achieved within the darkness of material existence is also impermanent. The question is how to obtain real and permanent life. The Lord states as soon as one reaches Him by devotional service, which is one and only way to approach this personality of Godhead, one attains complete freedom from the bondage of birth and death. In other words, the path of salvation from the material clutches fully depends on the principles of knowledge and detachment gained from serving the Lord. The pseudo-religionists have neither knowledge nor detachment from material affairs, for most of them want to live in the golden shackles of material bondage under the shadow of philanthropic activities disguised as religious principles. By a false display of religious sentiments, they present a show of devotional service by indulging in all sorts of immoral activities. In this way, they pass as spiritual masters or devotees of God. Such violators of religious principles have no respect for authoritative acharyas, the holy teachers in the strict disciplining succession. They ignore the Vedic injunctions, Acharya Pasana, one must worship the Acharya, and Krishna's statement in Bhagavad Gita 4.2, Evam Parampara Praptam. This supreme science of God is received through the disciplic succession. Instead, to mislead the people in general, they themselves become so-called acharyas, but they do not even follow the principles of acharyas. Those rogues are the most dangerous elements in human society because there is no religious government. They escape punishment by the law of state. They cannot, however, escape the law of the Supreme, who has clearly declared in Bhagavad Gita, the envious demons in the grab of religious propagandist shall be thrown into the darkest region of the hell. Bhagavad Gita 16.19 to 20. Shri Isopanishad confirms that the pseudo-religionists are heading towards the most obnoxious place in this universe after the completion of this spiritual master business, which they conduct simply for sense gratification.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Shila
Hare
Prabhupada Jai. So very nicely, I think from the flow itself, we are able to really understand the principle of knowledge and detachment is very important, and serving the Lord is more important. So one of the lecture now, one devotee is mentioning about one the so-called rogue. Okay, Prabhupada is using very nicely. So he was a sannyasi. He was kind of a sadhu sannyasi or somebody. He established a big ashram in south part of India, and it became very popular. At some point of time, it became so popular that everybody started going there. He made an ashram. Then he made inmates in the ashram, and somebody started living there and all. Okay, but some point of a time, there was some malpractice or some cheating happened, and then this particular sadhu was held responsible, and he is the culprit actually. Finally, it came out that no, he did some murder or he did some cheating or something like that, and then the trial went on for many years. Okay? The trial went on many years, and who gave the witness or who became the the so-called prime witness or something is the same person living in the ashram itself. So they themselves turned against him, and then he was sentenced to life imprisonment. So the story goes that way, that now he was giving 2 life imprisonment. They call it 2 life imprisonment. Means normal life imprisonment is 20 years or 21 years. 2 life imprisonment means 42 years. So he's already in this one. So almost kind of full sentence, right? But moment he went into the jail, after 3 months, 6 months, every day or the other, even a lot of foreign, the so-called foreign devotees and so many people started visiting him. So what happens? This person's popularity has never diminished. So they will come and see him in the jail. Okay. So in the jail also he became very popular. So the Prabhuji was mentioning, the jailer was mentioning, what is this? He is a culprit. He is a paka from a law perspective. He's kind of a culprit. So he has to be punished. So that is why he's there. But the way people come and give him, he gives him darshan. So every time at one point of time it becomes so difficult for them. Okay, so he was started taking parole also. So in the government, this one, there are some ways by which you can take parole, meaning every 3 months, 6 months and all. So by the time he goes out and comes back, he's becoming so popular. At some point of time, what happened? He died. Okay, because of his health issues or something. But what was main point was thing is he was the worst part is the so-called people who actually gave witness against him and all. They all went back to the same ashram and they started running the ashram. Okay, so they are still running the ashram and they are all inmates of the ashram. And that ashram is still going. This fellow has already died. Why I'm saying this question is sometimes certain people are so attached to the material affairs, even if they do some kind of bad activity and then they get punished also, even then still they have that particular so-called thing that it will still continue. Okay, so that is why Prabhupada is making it very strong, like, such violent as religious principles, no respect at all. So they have to be continuously condemned at some point of the time, and they are completely dangerous elements in the society. So we have to be very sure that whenever we try to, they will speak the same Bhagavatam, they'll speak same Bhagavad Gita, they will give a lot of nice presentation, they'll do a lot of things, but somebody who is not able to get the real faith and understanding, they will, that is why association of the devotees, others who are trying to be with them, it is very important that we always be kind of within that particular fencing situation, that we are safe. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. So this sloka is all about Devata worship, why we should not do it, and worship of the Supreme Lord, and at the same time worshipping the so-called pseudo-religious persons will get into the Andhatamasam, or the darkest region of the ignorance portion. So Isopanishad recommends that. Okay, and then understanding the Lord. So understanding the Lord's potency as the Paramapurusha Bhagavan, and not worship the Devatas, not worship the Brahmajyoti also, the effulgence portion also. Don't have any doubt, then we can go to the next slok. Okay, so those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so worship of the impersonal absolute. Sloka number 13.
Question, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, we were going to a session long back. Actually, it was some Christianity, related group, similar discussion group. So there they used to have I think under the 10 commandments, they have something similar. They should, they are advised not to go to any other place of worship, because obviously then people will start following, or they will try to do the guru hopping, right? Guru hopping means change this guru, go to another guru, and all. I think that way, just thinking, how do then these different people who are following different religions maybe coming under a common religion at any point in time, because everybody is advised, like we are advised, don't go to Mayavadi, don't go here and there. They are advised, don't go other places of worship, other religion or other gurus, or don't follow them, just like that. So maybe
One thing
how would this unity will come in?
Yes, Prabhu. Understand. The point is, everybody, Sarvo Bhavantu Sukhinaha, first point. Okay. Sarvo Bhavantu Sukhinaha means what? Everybody should be happy and everybody should serve others. Okay. Across Vasudeva Kutumbakam, or when we say unity as all the family members of the entire society together, our principle is also the same, and almost every other society will try to see our the society, we have to serve the society, we have to, so there will be some commonalities. Therefore, definitely religion brings some obedience, religion brings some discipline, religion brings some good characters, religion brings some values. So that is common across everywhere. Even among Christians, they pray before they eat. They do certain very nice procedures, even among all other religions also. However, what is the so if you ask me what is the commonality, definitely commonality exists. That is why it is a coexisting society. Otherwise, we would have never existed, right? So somebody will be always fighting. It is still going on. So between among one religion itself, there is a fight. Among religion to religion, there is a fight. That is still be there, but still why we are all coexisting, it is because of that one particular factor, that at least some portion of the society are able to tolerate, some portion of the society is able to be patient, some portion of the society is able to accept that yes, according to my principle, everybody should be taken as jivatmas, everybody should be considered as Vasudeva Kudumbakam. So that is why, so they might put it in a different parlance, different way of writing it, but across religions these things are still existing. That is why it will still continue. But at the same time, if certain, because of Kali Yuga's influence and other things, if there are some other things happening, all the fighting within in-house fighting, outside fighting, everything will continue. Okay. Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, let's
Hare
see.
Krishna.
Pading. Brahma Prabhu pading. Pading.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry, 13.
All from Prabhu.
Sorry. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Brahman Prabhu, you want to read or you want to have a doubt?
No, Prabhu. Read sloka or
Yeah, you read this one. Anyad eva.
Anyade Yevahu. Sorry, Prabhu. Just a disturb. Sambhavat Anyad Asambhavat iti susrama duruhanam yahastat vichadat siri. Translation. It is said that one result is obtained by worshipping the supreme cause of all causes, and that another result is obtained by worshipping what is not supreme. All this is heard from the undisturbed authorities who clearly explained it. And purport. The system of hearing from undisturbed authority is approved in his mantra, unless one hears from the bona fide acharya, who is never disturbed by any changes of the material world. One cannot have the real key of transcendental knowledge. The bona fide spiritual master who has also heard the Shruti mantras or Vedic knowledge from his undisturbed acharyas never presents anything that it is not mentioned in the Vedic literature. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.2.5, it is clearly said that those who worship the Pitrus or forefathers attain the planet of the forefathers. That the gross materialists who make the plan to remain there stay in the world, and the devotees of the Lord who worship none but Lord Krishna, the supreme cause of all causes, reach him in this spiritual sky. Here also Sri Isopanishad is verified that one achieves the different results by different mode of worship. If you worship the Supreme Lord, we will certainly reach him in his eternal abode. And if you worship demigod like the sun god or moon god, we can reach the respective planets without doubt. And if we to remain on this bridged planet, which our planning commissions and our stopgap political adjustment, we can certainly do that also.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So to answer Mahesh Prabhu's another point is why this is getting addressed. Okay, why we don't why we prescribe certain way of worship, others prescribe others way of worship even though there are commonalities, even though there are in the outline perspective, everything is same, everything is this one. Where is that destination or the goal being properly identified? Okay. So why see, every religion will say, yes, we are the best. Every religion will say, but if you go from a deep dive into their perspective of what is that they are trying to see, then you will see that they stop at certain position, or they don't go into a much more detailed activity, or they don't accept certain other authorities, or they have a different representation of the Vedas, or different understanding of the Vedas. So at some point of the time that will be valid, but not all part of the time. At some point of the time, for one particular purpose, it might be good, but not for everybody. So that is where you see the differences. So why we always recommend that, or at least guideline principle is that, don't try to get into other things. It will never give you the final destination. It will give you some destination. The final destination will be very, very long period. Okay, so that is why we all recommend. So there is nothing wrong with each of the religions. From a religion perspective, everybody has got certain things. But however, their destination, their goal is different, and the way they practice also will be kind of little more different. And also, they will never be able to get to the final destination. So it will be like kind of a certain level only. Okay, so that is why when you go from a deep shastric pramanam perspective and philosophical understanding across various religions, then you will be able to realize that, yes, which is the real one, and which. So the real one in the sense, others are also real in the sense it will stop at one particular level. Beyond that level is very important. That is why knowledge, Bhagavad Gita through the Lord is taking us from one level to another level to the highest level. Okay, so that is why there are different stages also in which somebody is able to realize that particular portion and then get into the understanding. So what is more important is to hear. Okay, so the Shushruma, the word Shushruma is used in this sloka, very important. Anyad ahut sasambhavat. It is Shushruma dhiranam. Dhira, the word dhiranam is also important. Yenastat vikshakshare. Okay. Okay, let's continue.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one more question, Prabhuji.
Hmm.
Many times people ask, maybe in some of the other discussions, why we should not, or maybe people who are interested to study Vedas in detailing. They said, can you give an authorized copy of the Veda? We want to read it and all that. What could be our answer in such situations from a teaching application perspective?
If there are two ways, if two ways to answer it, you want the summary, and then you want to quickly learn the essence of all the Vedas, or you want to sit and read to fulfill your jnana portion of, I want to really know from what is mentioned in the Vedas, in Rig Veda, Yajur. So like that, we have to post them the question back. If they say, I just want, my goal is the saram or the essence of all the Vedas is what is required, then we can always say, we refer to Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. That is what we are trying to cultivate or disseminate. But still, if the person says, no, I want to really know Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, of course, yes, you can sit and do. Nobody is going to stop them. We're definitely not against them. Only thing is, we have to just give them that caution. You maybe at some point of time, you might not have that full inclination sometimes, because this is what is experienced by all others. Okay, somebody after many years of, even Vyasa himself mentioned that after many years of compiling Vedas, he himself told that I did all the compilation, but still I'm not satisfied. So a certain portion of that particular thing might be. So you can give that word of caution to them. But however, still, if particular Jivatma says, no, I will sit and read Vedas, please do it. I mean, our Bhavata Mahavidyalaya, I also take some Veda classes. Some time back I took. So if at all they want something, then they can go. That is not at all there's nobody who want to stop them. Only thing is, just give that caution. So
So question is given, but they were asking, where can they find the authorized, Veda books actually?
that is what the problem is. So Vedas, there is nobody who owns the Vedas. Okay, Vedas is for everybody, and there is not called an authority for the Vedas. Like, no, this is the real. There are sampradaya. For example, even in our sampradaya, we do study from scriptural understanding perspective. There are, if you go to the next level of studying, there are some even among our society, there are persons who will want to go deep dive into other portions of Vedas, and they are doing it. Okay, but our recommendation is not that, okay, try to give a direction that yeah, this particular institute or this particular authority is the ultimate authority. No, we don't really recommend that. But there are still a lot of authorities. For example, if you ask about Ramanuja Sampradaya, of course, yes, there is a big Vedanta school in Srirangam. There is a big Vedanta school in Hyderabad. There is a big Vedanta school in Kanchipuram. There is a big school in Varanasi. There are a lot of Veda Padashalas. If they really wanted to go and sit in Veda Padashala, you can ask me. I will tell you which is the best Veda Padashalas in India. Even in Patna, there is a big Veda Padashala. Even in Gaya, there is a big Veda Padashala. Dwaraka also, there is a big Veda Padashala. Veda Padashala means it's a kind of a Gurukula ashram. Okay. So if they wanted a sophisticated way of learning Vedas, that is also available. There are online classes. I can give some references where they wanted to read the Vedas. That is also there, no problem.
Now, like for our Sampradaya, we have Veda base, for example, as maybe one
Yes, Veda,
authoritative source.
like that, I can give you. If you want really interested, I give you that online links for Rig Veda, Yajurveda, some Veda also.
Yeah, not for me, but for them, just so that they fulfill their
Yes,
temporary
it is there.
urge to
Correct.
acquire knowledge, and
Is
then
there.
later when they feel maybe then we can. Obviously, we have questioned, but they were still interested to find where we can.
Correct.
I said maybe somewhere in the government libraries. I found one of the link by the Indian government. I think there is a link of gov.
In
something.
Pune, if you ask from a government perspective, in Pune, there is a very big institute. Okay, Prabhupada himself referred our senior Vaishnavas and Acharyas to go there, and then in Pune, there is a very historical old institute and Oriental Institute of some name. So even for research purpose, Mahabhagavata, Mahavidyalaya, Gauranga Prabhu, I remember they will go there just to take some references, quotes from where it is being brought out and all. It is still there. If you ask me, if they want that government authorized license one, that institute is also there.
Yeah, I found this VedicHeritage.gov.in. I think it was the site I searched for him, but I thought I'll check maybe with you, where we can
like that,
find
there are
the.
so many sites, Prabhu, Vedic Heritage, but still those are all maybe somebody, some enthusiastic persons would have created it. But
Now, since this is saying gov.in, so I thought it is actually authorized by government and saying, you can find VedicHeritage.gov.in. But maybe if you have something relevant which can be guiding them to the right path, and later they should understand it better, maybe I think that would be helpful. But questioning part has already been done. Thank you, Prabhuji. I think.
Prabhupada will give this analogy, ticket taking to Calcutta. Okay, read.
Nowhere in authentic scriptures it is said that one will ultimately reach the same goal by doing anything or worshipping anyone. Such foolish theories are offered by self-made spiritual masters who have no connection with the parampara, the bona fide system of the disciplic succession. The bona fide spiritual master cannot say that all the paths lead to the same goal and that anyone can attain this goal by his own mode of worship of the demigods or of the supreme or whatever. Any common man very easily understands that a person can reach his destination only when he has purchased a ticket for that destination. A person who has purchased ticket for Kolkata can reach Kolkata, but not Bombay. But the so-called spiritual masters say that any and all paths will take one to the supreme goal. Such mundane and compromising offers attract many foolish creatures who become puffed up with their manufactured methods of spiritual realization. The Vedic instructions, however, do not uphold them unless one has received knowledge from the bona fide spiritual master who is in the recognized line of disciplic succession. One cannot have the real thing as it is. Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita 4.2, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa.
Thank you, Madhu.
Thank you.
So read the purport also, the translation.
This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost.
1 second. So this question is all about understanding the spiritual master. It is like a destination. If you purchase a ticket for Calcutta, you go to Calcutta only. So, but the so-called the way of the Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhir, Ekeha Kuruna. Whenever you heard the word path, religion, destiny, goal, immediately in Bhagavad Gita, this sloka you should come to your mind. Okay, Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhir, Ekeha Kurunandana. Bahusagi Anantasya. So Bahuta means it will have multiple paths. So it all depend upon which one we are trying to take it up. Okay. Prabhuji's maybe. In the Lord.
Sure, Prabhu.
Hmm.
When Lord Sri Krishna was present on this earth, the Bhakti Yoga principles defined in the Bhagavad Gita had become distorted. Therefore, the Lord had to re-establish the disciplic system, beginning with Arjuna, who was the most confidential friend and devotee of the Lord. The Lord clearly told Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita 4.3 that it was because Arjuna was his devotee and friend that he could understand the principles of the Bhagavad Gita. In other words, only the Lord's devotee and friend can understand the Gita. This also means that only one who follows the path of Arjuna can understand the Bhagavad Gita. At the present moment, there are many interpreters and translators of this sublime dialogue who care nothing for Lord Krishna or Arjuna. Some interpreters explain the verses of Bhagavad Gita in their own way and postulate all sorts of rubbish in the name of the Gita. Such interpreters believe neither in Sri Krishna nor in his eternal abode. How then can they explain the Bhagavad Gita?
Thank you.
Krishna clearly says that only those who have lost their sense worship the demigods for paltry reward. Bhagavad Gita 7.20-23. Ultimately, he advises that one give up all other ways and modes of worship and fully surrender unto him alone. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Only those who have cleansed off all sinful reactions can have such unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord. Others will continue hovering on the material platform with their paltry ways of worship and thus will be misled from the real path under the false impression that all paths lead to the same goal. In this mantra of Sri Isopanishad, the word Sambhavat, by worship of the supreme cause, is very significant. Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and everything that exists has emanated from him. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.8, the Lord says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhabhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Okay, Mataji is in English. This question I think is very. Thank you, Prabhu. I thought you are office work or you're officially working and reading. Ananta.
No, Prabhu, officially focusing on Isopanishad and reading.
Okay.
Weekends are Saturday and Sunday here.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Here is a correct description of the Supreme Lord given by the Lord himself. The words Sarvasya Prabhava indicate that Krishna is the creator of everyone, including Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And because these three principal deities of the material world are created by the Lord is the creator of all that exists in the material and spiritual worlds. In the Atharva Veda, Gopal Tapani Upanishad 1.24, it is similarly said, he who existed before the creation of Brahma and who enlightened Brahma with Vedic knowledge is Lord Shri Krishna. Similarly, the Narayana Upanishad 1 states, then the Supreme Person Narayana desired to create all living beings. Thus from Narayana, Brahma was born. Narayana created all the Prajapatis. Narayana created Indra. Narayana created the 8 Vasus. Narayana created the 11 Rudras. Narayana created the 12 Adityas. Since Narayana is the plenary manifestation of Lord Krishna, Narayana and Krishna are one and the same. The Narayana Upanishad 4 also states, Devki's son Krishna is the Supreme Lord. The identity of Narayana with the Supreme Cause has also been accepted and confirmed by Sripad Shankaracharya, even though Shankara does not belong to the Vaishnava or personalist cult. The Atharva Veda, Maha Upanishad 1, also states, only Narayana existed in the beginning, when neither Brahma, nor Shiva, nor fire, nor water, nor stars, nor sun, nor moon existed. The Lord does not remain alone, but creates as he desires. Krishna himself states in the Moksha Dharma, I created the Prajapatis and the Rudras. They do not have complete knowledge of me because they are covered by my illusionary energy. It is also stated in the Varaha Purana, Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him the four-headed Brahma was manifested, as well as Rudra, who later became omniscient. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So the Karnadaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, oceans, the Narayana in the Milky Ocean, the importance of understanding the Narayana Upanishad also. So whatever is existing, Aham Sarvasya Prabhu is also getting fully. So Prabhupada is referring all the different kinds of Upanishad and Vedas also to establish that fact. So every Upanishad's goal will be different. So when you read through certain Upanishad, it will talk about glorify one particular portion of the Lord and then get him. So even the Puranas also, even the Upanishads portion, there will be a particular context to it. Okay, so if you read through the other Puranas like Garuda Puran or Vishnu Puran or Padma Puran, the elementary understanding will be the same, but the goal and glorification of that particular Lord will be much more higher. Okay, so that is why we need to see why we always take Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavata Purana compared with other Puranas. Other Puranas also has got the equal potency, but the goal of or the object of worship is different. Okay, so the Narayana Upanishad is also same thing. So Narayana Upanishad will focus on glorifying Lord Narayana and then making him established as the Supreme Lord there. Okay, which is also true, but our understanding is little more higher and then deeper in this. Okay, anybody?
Thus, all Vedic literature confirms that Narayana or Krishna is the cause of all causes. In the Brahma Samhita 5.1, also it is said that the Supreme Lord is Sri Krishna, Govinda, the delighter of every living being, and the primeval cause of all causes. The really learned person know this from evidence given by the great sages and the Vedas, and thus they decide to worship Lord Krishna as all in all. Such persons are called Buddha or really learned because they worship only Krishna. The conviction that Krishna is all in all is established when one hears the transcendental message from the undisturbed Acharya with faith and love. One who has no faith in or love for Lord Krishna cannot be convinced of this simple truth. Those who are faithless are described in the Bhagavad Gita 9.11 as modas, fools or asses. It is said that the modas deride the personality of Godhead because they do not have complete knowledge from the undisturbed Acharya. One who is disturbed by the whirlpool of material energy is not qualified to become an Acharya. Before hearing the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was disturbed by the material whirlpool, by his affection for his family, society, and community. Thus, Arjuna wanted to become a philanthropic, non-violent man of the world. But when he became Buddha, by hearing the Vedic knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Person, he changed his decision and became a worshipper of Lord Sri Krishna, who had himself arranged the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna worshipped the Lord by fighting with his so-called relatives, and in this way he became a pure devotee of the Lord.
Such accomplishments are possible only when one worships the real Krishna and not some fabricated Krishna invented by foolish men who are without knowledge of the intricacies of the science of Krishna described in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Very nice.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Very nice. I mean, but the Isopanishad purport is very nice. Like if you just go through the purports, we can really understand what Prabhupada really wants us to bring. The sloka portion covers the importance of understanding the supreme person of Godhead. The purport will directly relate where Prabhupada will say that particular supreme person is Krishna. So worship Krishna and nobody else is required. Okay. Buddha. So Muda and Buddha. Okay, Muda is the foolish person. Buddha is somebody who is kind of intelligent and then who is able to understand and worship only the Supreme Lord. Okay. This portion also very nice. Fabricated Krishna. Okay, so don't try to create fabricated Krishna. And remember Prabhupada once when there was some drawing. When this BBT drawings were happening, somebody initially drew Arjuna in a kind of a very blackish form. Right. So Prabhupada rejected that. Who told you Arjuna is in this color? So like that, So Prabhupada is very keen on identifying how the devotees envisage or devotees vision the Lord also. Okay. After some time now, there are a lot of various the various so-called different we say the vision of the Lord coming out, but if you want to really stick to Prabhupada's way, then always take the old photos, old BBT drawings, which is kind of authenticated or approved by Prabhupada. I'm just giving you an example where don't get to see. Nowadays, I can see where like Krishna with a smiling face, with the teeth getting shown, or Radharani or all the gopis where the teeth is getting shown visibly. So those are all kind of I don't know how it is getting really. It looks very attractive, but personally, I'm not. We have never seen any Lord's photo or the Radharani's photo anywhere. It is like kind of where, yeah, the teeth is very nice, good looking, but it is not authenticated. Okay? I'm just giving you a small the fabrication portion now getting into that. Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna. Nowhere in any of the photos in the world, wherever you see, you will never see the teeth portion shown. Any kind of this one, you will never see that. Okay, so don't get in any fabrication understanding. Okay, Hare Krishna. Last section. Anybody?
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Ma'am.
According to the Vedanta Sutra, Sambhuta is the source of birth and sustenance, as well as the reservoir that remains after annihilation, Janmadhyasya Yataha. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by the same author, maintains that the source of all emanations is not like a dead stone, but is abhignya, or fully conscious. The primeval Lord Sri Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita 7:26 that he is fully conscious of past, present, and future, and that no one, including demigods such as Shiva and Brahma, knows him fully. Certainly, half-educated spiritual leaders who are disturbed by the tides of material existence cannot know him fully. They try to make some compromise by making the mass of humanity the object of worship, but they do not know that such worship is only a myth because the masses are imperfect. The attempt by these so-called spiritual leaders is something like pouring water on the leaves of a tree instead of the root. The natural process is to pour water on the root, but such disturbed leaders are more attracted to the leaves than the root. Despite their perpetually watering the leaves, however, everything dries up for want of nourishment. Thanks.
Sorry, I was on mute. The attempt by these so-called spiritual leaders is something like pouring water on the leaves of the tree instead of the root. Okay? So this is also a very nice point. So giving water to the root only will be able to grow. Nice. Okay, let's continue. We'll finish at least one sloka, two slokas. Sri Isopanishad advises.
Sri Isopanishad advises us to pour water on the root, the source of all germination. Worship of the mass of humanity by rendering bodily service, which can never be perfect, is less important than service to the soul. The soul is the root that generates different types of bodies according to the law of karma. To serve human beings, my medical aid, social help, and educational facilities, while at the same time cutting the throats of poor animals in slaughterhouses, is no service at all to the soul, the living being. The living being is perpetually suffering in different types of bodies from the material miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. The human form of life offers one a chance to get out of this entanglement simply by re-establishing the lost relationship between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. The Lord comes personally to teach this philosophy of surrender unto the Supreme, the Sambhuta. Real service to humanity is rendered when one teaches surrender to and worship of the Supreme Lord with full love and energy. That is the instruction of Sri Isopanishad in this mantra. The simple way to worship the Supreme Lord in this age of disturbance is to hear and chant about his great activities. The mental speculators, however, think that the activities of the Lord are imaginary. Therefore, they refrain from hearing of them and invent some world jugglery without any substance to divert the attention of the innocent masses of people. Instead of hearing of the activities of Lord Krishna, such pseudo-spiritual masters advertise themselves by inducing their followers to sing about them. In modern times, the number of such pretenders has increased considerably, and it has become a problem for the pure devotees of the Lord to save the masses of people from the unholy propaganda of these pretenders and pseudo-incarnations.
Okay. Okay. So let's continue. I mean, this is all reading portion only. It's kind of reading class. Okay. Anybody? Prabhuji's, anybody? Mataji? Upanishads directly draw?
Can I continue?
Yeah, continue.
The Upanishads indirectly draw our attention to the primeval Lord Sri Krishna, but the Bhagavad Gita, which is the summary of all Upanishads, directly points to Sri Krishna. Therefore, one should hear about Krishna as he is by hearing from the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this way, one's mind will gradually be cleansed of all contaminated things. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2:17 says, by hearing of the activities of the Lord, the devotee draws the attention of the Lord. Thus, the Lord, being situated in the heart of every living being, helps the devotee by giving him proper direction. The Bhagavad Gita 10:10 confirms this. Dadami buddhi yogam tam ena mam upayantite. The Lord's inner direction cleanses the devotee's heart of all contamination produced by the material modes of passion and ignorance. Non-devotees are under the sway of passion and ignorance. One who is in passion cannot become detached from material hankering, and one who is in ignorance cannot know what he is or what Lord is. Thus, when one is in the passion or ignorance, there is no chance for self-realization. However much one may play the part of a religionist, for a devotee, the mode of passion or ignorance are removed by the grace of the Lord. In this way, the devotee becomes situated in the quality of goodness, the sign of a perfect Brahmana. Anyone can qualify as a Brahmana if he follows the path of devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Srimad Bhagavatam 2:4:18 also says, Prabhu, could you read this for me?
Say the same meter is Kirata Hanhandara Pulinda Pulakasam Abhir Sambhaya Vanakshayadayaha Eanya Chapapayadapa Shraya Shudhyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any low-born persons can be purified by the guidance of a pure devotee of the Lord, for the Lord is extraordinarily powerful. When one attains Brahminical qualifications, he becomes happy and enthusiastic to render devotional service to the Lord. Automatically, the signs of God is unveiled before him. By knowing the signs of God, one gradually becomes freed from material attachments, and one's doubtful mind becomes crystal clear by the grace of the Lord. One who attains the stage of one who attains this stage is a liberated soul and can see the Lord in every step of life. This is the perfection of Sambhava as described in this mantra of Sri Isopanishad.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Sambhava Atma Maya. That's what Sambhava is. This is also in one way where he's the supreme, he's the perfection point. Okay, this Kirita, Hunnandara, Pulinda, Pulakasa, Abhira, Sumbha, Yavana, Kshadra. All these are all kind of lower level people. Kirita is kind of lower level people. Hunandara is kind of Pulinda is all whatever be ye anyacha papa yad apashraya apashraya ashraya. So whatever be it yad papa, whatever be it, whatever be the papa, whatever be the sin they have done, apa ashraya ashraya. So when they are taking ashraya of the supreme net, shuddhyanti tasmai prabha vishnave. Shuddhyanti means cleansing, cleaning. Shuddhyanti tasmai prabha vishnave namaha. Okay, so it will definitely, the supreme law is very powerful. Whatever be the situation, whomsoever at any kind of a lower level can be tamed. How? By the guidance of a pure devotee of the Lord. Okay, shuddhyanti tasmai prabha vishnave namaha. Nice. Okay. Good. Thank you. Hare Krishna. We'll finish only 2 slokas. Okay. Should we read one more sloka? Or we'll take a small break and come back and then try to complete. We'll take a small break. Is it okay? Or we'll continue?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Prabhuji.
Okay. We'll take a small break. Then we'll continue at 120 or 123, 125. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Now. Okay, Hare Krishna. Continue. 14th sloka. Sambhutim cha vinasham cha yastadvedho bhayam saha vinashena mrityum tirtva sambhutyamritam vashnute. Back. Already 3 of them got disconnected. No? One should know perfectly the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna and his transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes, as well as the temporary material creation with its temporary demigods, men and animals. When one knows these, he surpasses death and the ephemeral cosmic manifestation with it, and in the eternal kingdom of God, he enjoys his eternal life of bliss and knowledge. So one should perfectly know the Supreme Person of Godhead, Naam, Roop, Guna, and Leela, okay, as well as the temporary creation. So his other creation, his devatas, and other things also. When somebody knows this, he surpasses death and the manifestation with it, and enter into the kingdom of Supreme Lord with eternal bliss and knowledge. Okay, Sambhutin. Okay. You want to read or you want to skip this and then continue? Let's read it. I think we should read.
We can read, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jaipur.
By its so-called advancement of knowledge, human civilization has created many material things, including spaceships and atomic energy. Yet it has failed to create a situation in which people need not die, take birth again, become old, or suffer from disease. Whenever an intelligent man raises the question of these miseries before a so-called scientist, the scientist very cleverly replies that material science is progressing and that ultimately it will be possible to render man deathless, ageless, and diseaseless. Such answers prove the scientist's gross ignorance of material nature. In material nature, everyone is under the stringent law of matter and must pass through 6 stages of existence: birth, growth, maintenance, production of byproducts, deterioration, and finally death. No one in contact with the material nature can be beyond these 6 laws of transformation. Therefore, no one, whether demigods, man, animal, or plant, can survive forever in the material world. The duration of life varies according to species. Lord Brahma, the chief living being within this material universe, lived for millions and millions of years, while a minute germ lives for some hours only. But no one in the material world can survive eternally. Things are born or created under certain conditions. They stay for some time, and if they continue to live, they grow, procreate, gradually dwindle, and finally vanish. According to these laws, even the Brahmas, of which there are billions in different universes, are all liable to death either today or tomorrow. Therefore, the entire material universe is called Mrityulok, the place of death. Material scientists and politicians are trying to make this place deathless because they have no information of the deathless spiritual nature. This is due to their ignorance of the Vedic literature, which contains full knowledge confirmed by mature transcendental experience. Unfortunately, modern man is averse to receiving knowledge from the Vedas, Puranas, and other scriptures. From the Vishnu Puran, we receive the following information. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetrajna Kshatratha Para Avidya Karma Samyana Pritya Sakti Ishyate. Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, possesses different energies known as Para, superior, and Apara, inferior. The living entity belongs to the superior energy. The material energy in which we are presently entangled is the inferior energy. The material creation is made possible by this energy, which covers a living entity with ignorance, avidya, and induces them to perform fruitive activities. Yet there is another part of the Lord's superior energy that is different from both this material and inferior energy and the living entities. That superior energy constitutes the eternal deathless abode of the Lord. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8.20. Parastasmatu bhavenyo yakto vyaktat sanatana yat yah sarveshu bhuteshu nasteshu na vinashyati.
Okay, bro. Thank you. Making it very clear. I think I did not need to get into the main question. So understanding of the supreme knowledge, getting the large understanding. Okay, we continue. I think we should be. Anybody else? Prabhuji's, Mataji's.
Okay, Prabhuji. All the material planets, upper, lower, and intermediate, including the sun, moon, and Venus, are scattered throughout the universe. These planets exist only during the lifetime of Brahma. Some lower planets, however, are vanquished after the end of one day of Brahma and are again created during the next day of Brahma. On the upper planets, time is calculated differently. One of our years is equal to only 24 hours or 1 day and night on many of the upper planets. The 4 ages of Earth, Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali, last only 12,000 years according to time scale of the upper planets. Such a length of time multiplied by 1,000 constitutes 1 day of Brahma, and 1 night of Brahma is the same. Such days and nights accumulate into months and years, and Brahma lives for 100 such years. At the end of Brahma's life, the complete universal manifestation is vanquished. Those living beings who reside on higher planets like the sun and the moon, as well as those on Martyaloka, this earth planet, and also those who live on lower planets, all are merged into the waters of devastation during the night of Brahma. During this time, no living beings or species remain manifest, although spiritually they continue to exist. This unmanifested stage is called Avyakta. Again, when the entire universe is vanquished at the end of Brahma's lifetime, there is another Avyakta state. But beyond these two unmanifested states is another unmanifested state, the spiritual atmosphere or nature. There are a great number of spiritual planets in this atmosphere, and these planets exist eternally, even when all the planets within this material universe are vanquished at the end of Brahma's life. There are many material universes, each under the jurisdiction of a Brahma, and this cosmic manifestation within the jurisdiction of the various Brahmas is but a display of 1/4 of the energy of the Lord. Ekapad Vibhuti. This is the inferior energy beyond the jurisdiction of Brahma, is the spiritual nature, which is called Tripada Vibhuti, 3/4 of the Lord's energy. This is the superior energy or Paraprakriti. The predominating supreme person residing within the spiritual nature is Lord Sri Krishna. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8.22, he can be approached only by unalloyed devotional service and not by processes of jnana, philosophy, yoga, mysticism, or karma, fruitive work. The karmis of fruitive workers can elevate themselves to the Svargaloka planets, which include the sun and the moon. Jnanis and yogis can attain still higher planets, such as Maharloka, Tapoloka, and Brahmaloka. And when they become still more qualified through devotional service, they can enter into the spiritual nature, either the illuminating cosmic atmosphere of the spiritual sky Brahman or the Vaikuntha planets, according to their qualification. It is certain, however, that no one can enter into the spiritual Vaikuntha planets without being trained in devotional service. On the material planets, everyone from Brahma down to the ant is trying to lord it over material nature, and this is the material disease. As long as this material disease continues, the living entity has to undergo the process of bodily change. Whether he takes the form of a man, demigod, or animal, he ultimately has to endure an unmanifested condition during the two devastations, the devastation during the night of Brahma and the devastation at the end of Brahma's life. If we want to put an end to this process of repeated birth and death, as well as the concomitant factors of old age and disease, we must try to enter the spiritual planets where we can live eternally in the association of Lord Krishna or his plenary expansions, his Narayana forms. Lord Krishna or his plenary expansions dominate every one of these innumerable planets, a fact confirmed in the Shruti mantras. एको वशी सर्वगः कृष्ण ईड्यः एकोऽपि सन् बहुधा यो बभाति. Gopalatāpani Upanishad 1.3.21. No one can dominate Krishna. It is the conditioned soul who tries to dominate material nature and is instead subjected to the laws of material nature and the sufferings of repeated birth and death. The Lord comes here to re-establish the principles of religion, and the basic principle is the development of an attitude of surrender to Him. This is the Lord's last instruction in the Bhagavad Gita 1866. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Give up all other processes and just surrender unto me alone. Unfortunately, foolish men have misinterpreted this prime teaching and misled the masses of people in diverse ways. People have been urged to open hospitals but not to educate themselves to enter into the spiritual kingdom by devotional service. They have been taught to take interest only in temporary relief work, which can never bring real happiness to the living entity. They start varieties of public and semi-governmental institutions to tackle the devastating power of nature, but they don't know how to pacify insurmountable nature. Many men are advertised as great scholars of the Bhagavad Gita, but they overlook the Gita's message by which material nature can be pacified. Powerful nature can be pacified only by awakening of God consciousness, as clearly pointed out in the Bhagavad Gita 7.14. In this mantra, Sri Isopanishad teaches that one must perfectly know both Sambhuti, the personality of Godhead, and Vinasha, the temporary material manifestation, side by side. By knowing the material manifestation alone, one cannot be saved, for in the course of nature there is devastation at every moment. Ahani ahani bhutani gacchantiha yamale layam. Nor can one be saved from these devastations by the opening of hospitals. One can be saved only by complete knowledge of the eternal life of bliss and awareness. The whole Vedic scheme is meant to educate men in this art of attaining eternal life. People are often misguided by temporary attractive things based on sense gratification, but service rendered to the sense objects is both misleading and degrading. We must therefore save ourselves and our fellow man in the right way. There is no question of liking or disliking the truth. It is there. It is there. If we want to be saved from repeated birth and death, we must take to the devotional service of the Lord. There can be no compromise, for this is a matter of necessity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Thank you so much, Mataji. Very nice. It is a matter of necessity, and there is no compromise. We have to take this devotion service and understand. So, because we have read through Bhagavad Gita very detailedly, I believe this portion of whatever the karma work, the jnanis, yogis, the Brahma's life duration, all those things, I think we should be able to understand. And Sarvadharman Varidhaja portion also we are able to understand.
Just a quick question for you.
Yes,
This, I think it mentioned Ek Pad and Tri Pad, right?
Yes.
Where it is mentioned actually? I mean, where the reference is taken from? Which scripture actually? Ek Pad Vibhuti and Tri Pad Vibhuti.
Okay.
That spiritual nature is
Fine.
3, 4, and 1.
I will have to find out. I will let you, because what we understand, generally Prabhupada in many of the Prabhupada is saying whatever we are seeing from a material dimension is just only 1/4 or 1%, he used to say. The material world is much more larger in the context, in the size, and this one, that is, it is 3/4. So out of 1/4 is material world, 3/4 is a spiritual world. I'll find it out, because on one of the lecture or purport, he has mentioned this, like he mentioned this word that this is smaller compared to the bigger spiritual world. But from where did he took it, I will find it out.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, we'll finish in one more sloka. Just here on from here onwards, the prayer part starts. If somebody is doing yoga, they will read the Hiranmayena Bhatrena Shatyasvidhammukam Tattvam Pushnam Aprinno Satya Dharmaya Drishyate. This is when they do yoga, they do this Patanjali yoga. When they do this, specifically this Surya Namaskar, they will read this Hiranmayena Bhatrena. We read it tomorrow. I think we can read it tomorrow. We'll try to complete 15, 16, 17, 18 tomorrow. Okay. So this from this section onwards, it is all prayers. I'm not able to see the dazzling effulgence. Please, I want to see your form. Okay, because seeing the effulgence, it is very glaring. I'm not able to. So this is the prayer portion where that particular surrendered devotee will have that eagerness to have the darshan of the Lord. So till then, the journey is where he has gained the knowledge, he has gained the understanding, he gained everything, and finally he is in a state where he has to offer the prayers. And what kind of prayers? So in that prayer itself, first thing is he wants to have the darshan of the Lord. Okay? So that is where this Tattvam Pushnam Apurna Satya Dharmaya. Okay. Tomorrow we will continue this. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.